When Amnesia: The Dark Descent came out back in 2010, horror fans were enthralled with its oppressive atmosphere, bleak setting, and attention to detail. In many respects, the game was a fresh approach to the genre and introduced a far more personal, visceral experience into the mix for gamers to enjoy. As far as first-person survival horror games go, many people agree that Amnesia is a franchise that consistently delivers the goods and does its best to up the ante with every new title. Being a major fan of survival horror as a genre, there was just no way I couldn't play Amnesia: The Bunker myself. So after doing a little research and reading up on what the game has to offer, I dove in headfirst and found out what fresh new hell awaited me. So with this in mind, here's my thoughts on my experience of Amnesia: The Bunker. In this latest title from Frictional Games, you assume the role of Henri Clement, a French soldier who finds himself in a rather unfortunate predicament. You see, it's World War I, which is bad enough, but to make matters worse, you've awoken in a military bunker to discover that everyone around you has seemingly vanished or abandoned their post, or potentially something even worse. In terms of a setting, I don't think there are many more depressing or bleaker than a dark and dusty World War I bunker that is entirely devoid of life. Right from the start, it becomes apparent that you are alone, and it's this very sense of isolation that sustains the game's grim and gritty mood. But to be honest, to say you're alone is a little misleading, because it becomes apparent that something inhuman is watching your every move from the shadows, waiting for you to let your guard down so that it can drag you off into the dark. If there's a palpable sense of dread in previous Amnesia titles, and trust me, there is, the bunker turns the dial up to 11 and doesn't take its foot off the gas at any point. Any kind of relief you feel is fleeting, and for the most part, you're going to be spending your time trying to escape your situation and not losing your cool, just like in real life. You really have to wonder why we willingly do this to ourselves. Maybe the best way to deal with hypertension is to experience it in virtual spaces. Seems counterintuitive, but it definitely sounds like a theory to me. Obviously, this wouldn't be an Amnesia game if it wasn't dark, and at times, difficult to traverse. There are several sections that are quite confusing and claustrophobic, and rightfully so. There are numerous instances in the game where you feel decidedly lost and, admittedly, quite hopeless, so keeping your wits about you and your morale up is something you'll need to pay attention to lest you fall into a state of enduring despair. Now, you might think that simply using light to your advantage is the way to go, and in this case, you'd be half right. You certainly don't want to be caught blind and blundering in the dark. Not at all, really. But if you're too cavalier with lighting your way all the time, this brings new risks that you'd undoubtedly prefer to avoid. To this end, you'll need to manage using your torch and only take it out when you most need it. Otherwise, well, the thing that's stalking you might take drastic steps to address the situation. Don't say I didn't warn you. In principle, the bunker is all about finding out what the heck happened to your fellow soldiers and, obviously, escaping from the abominable creature that's stalking you. There's no way you can kill this thing, so you'll need to avoid your unseen aggressor in as much as possible. However, if you do happen to get up close and personal with the unspeakable thing, you can defend yourself, but with limited ammo, you're going to need to make your shots count. If you miss the mark, you're pretty much as good as dead. Besides that, you're not in any condition to fight, as it's clear that Henri is in less than peak condition. In many respects, this makes the bunker that much more immersive and nerve-wracking, as you really get the impression that you are extremely vulnerable, and for all intents and purposes, you are. Oh, and don't even let me get started on the sound design, which is obviously masterfully done. You'd swear that the monster is basically right behind you almost all of the time, so the temptation to turn around and check constantly never fully dissipates. But this is just it. You are kept in a constant state of stress, so if you're crazy enough to keep playing Amnesia: The Bunker for an extended period of time, you may soon begin to resemble Henri far more closely than you'd care to. It's also great that supplies are minimal, since the objective here is to rely on your own sound judgment to navigate obstacles, but this is much easier said than done. The beauty of the bunker is that it keeps you guessing and challenges your own morals and perceptions through its carefully crafted narrative which, while not deviating too far from standard horror tropes, is harrowing and maddening enough that you'll want to continually satiate your curiosity. And while this can sometimes be rewarding, there's obviously a strong chance that you could pay dearly for making a certain decision. It's almost as though the game wants to drive you into a state of analysis paralysis, and in several instances, it almost perfectly achieves this. But if there's anything you don't want to be in the bunker, it's indecisive. Trust me on that. There are several aspects of the game that make it particularly refreshing. For one thing, its semi-open world design means that you can explore every last inch of the sprawling non-linear bunker and find all new approaches to dealing with problems. But while creativity and exploration is essentially encouraged, the monster will actually adapt its behavior based on how you play the game. Seeing that it's 2023, it shouldn't come as a surprise that the antagonist's AI is suitably advanced and will probably surprise you on more than one occasion. I suppose if there's one piece of advice that you might find helpful, it's to keep as quiet as possible, since the monster reacts to loud noises such as when you crank your flashlight or fire a gunshot, for example. Naturally, this isn't a hard and fast rule, and in some cases you may find that running or hiding is a better approach, but this is how you achieve a winning strategy. You'll need to mix it up and keep the monster guessing, so the less predictable you are in your approach, the better. Graphically, the game looks great, and again, the sound design has to be commended. You really get the impression you're trapped in an actual empty bunker and that even the tiniest noise reverberates through the whole darn structure. I'm not kidding. You could hear a mouse sneeze on the farthest side without too much trouble. Oh, and best of all, you can hear the monster moving around in the walls and coming towards you, which, while helpful to a point, may cause you to soil your briefs if you're not mentally prepared for it. Simply put, Amnesia the Bunker is not for the faint of heart, and if you value your sanity, or what little of it you may cling to, then this is a game you do well to steer clear of. However, if you don't mind Lovecraftian horrors and being hunted by a living, breathing eldritch nightmare, then this is a game that's sure to delight you in the most terrifying way imaginable. Oh yeah, and try not to look into the darkness or at the creature directly because you will completely lose your mind, but if you've played any previous Amnesia games, then you were probably already well aware of this. Amnesia the Bunker is out right now on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So that's all I really have to say. Are you going to be playing Amnesia the Bunker, or are you waiting on something else to scare you witless? Let me know in the comments. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more gaming, VR, and tech content. From me and the crew here at Metasquad, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later!